Hip hop is the most popular form of music in the United States, and the margin between rap and rock music, which is the next most popular category, is widening each year. It's especially popular among young people, and this is probably the biggest reason for hip hop's enormous growth in popularity across the nation. Most American rap music is produced and recorded by African Americans, and the roots of hip hop in the black community go back decades. While it's been impacted by other forms of music, most notably jazz, hip hop has seen influence from other cultures, including Japanese and East Asian culture, and I'd like to discuss that. So, according to one scholarly source that I've read, the first sustained connection between African Americans and Japanese people came after World War II, when the Allied forces were executing a military occupation in Japan. There were many African Americans serving the U.S. military, and during their time, they developed various relationships with Japanese people, particularly with the women. Many black servicemen ended up marrying Japanese women, while others used the prostitutional services. By the way, white military men did this too, but since hip hop is primarily made by black artists, I'm focusing on the factors that influenced them. Also, despite the racism that African Americans faced in Japan, they still seem to feel more liberated than they did in the States, which is a reflection on America's dark, racist past. Anyways, we can look at the occupation of Japan as the first prolonged encounter between African American and Japanese people that potentially influenced black culture. We can now discuss the 1970s and look at how different aspects of East Asian culture have influenced the African American community. Based on information I read from another scholarly source, East Asian martial arts like Kung Fu and Karate became immensely popular among Americans, and Bruce Lee's movies were especially popular in black theaters. Combined with thrilling combat scenes, these films depicted honest scenes of police harassment of black people, as well as Bruce Lee himself facing racial discrimination, which allowed him to cultivate friendships with African Americans. Bruce Lee's influence not only caused black America to respect East Asian culture, but they became interested and willing to explore future genres of East Asian culture, with the next big one rising to enormous popularity in the United States in the late 80s, early 90s. So, anime has become mainstream in America, with shows like Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, and Naruto taking television by storm in this country. Now, each of those shows have been referenced countless times in American hip-hop songs and albums. Just a few big names today that have done so. There's Lil Baby, Denzel Curry, Migos, Chance the Rapper, along with many, many others. And interestingly, when they do so, they're often glorifying different parts of Japanese culture. There's one key reference I want to discuss because I think it's important to understanding how modern hip-hop discusses Japanese popular culture in such a positive and often aggressive way. So last year, Denzel Curry released a song called Diet, and I'll read the verse from the song here. It goes, "The Shogun came through with no gun, one man, Ichiban, fresh out of Japan, do as I command." So there's a good deal to unpack here. First off, he's comparing himself to a shogun, which was the highest ranking military official in Japan. He then calls himself Ichiban, which translates to number one. He directly name drops Japan, and he says that everyone around him must do as he commands, even though he doesn't have a gun. So this verse shows the respect that Denzel Curry has for Japanese culture. He's an extremely passionate and particular artist, so by asserting himself as a dominant rapper through Japanese references, there's no denying the impact the culture has had on him. Of course, Denzel's verse does not speak for how the entire hip-hop community feels about Japan, but it does embody just how influential Japanese culture has been on American rappers. I'd like to speak now about anime's influence in further depth. So, I gained some perspective on this topic reading a Kotaku article that discussed the appeal of anime to African Americans specifically. They interviewed a black Adobe engineer named Malcolm Jones, who discussed how many black people, especially those who grew up underprivileged, can resonate with anime characters who also came from humble beginnings. This notion was confirmed by RZA, the lead member of Wu-Tang Clan, who said Goku from Dragon Ball Z represents the journey of the black man, and he even mentions the character's dreadlocks for further comparison. So, the idea of anime characters resonating with the lives of young black men makes sense, since many hip hop subjects revolve around dangerous experiences that rappers have had, especially as youths. I also think the visual appeal and tempo of many of these shows contributes to anime's popularity in the broader United States. And when you combine this with rap being the most popular and fastest growing musical genre in the country, it's no wonder why Japanese cultural references have become superfluous throughout the hip hop community. Personally, I'm happy that many of my favorite rappers reference anime and Japanese pop culture in general, since it's helped me further appreciate this class and also enjoy hip hop music, now that I have a better insight on both subjects. So that's about it. Thank you for watching my presentation. Hope you enjoyed.